Editions later, and almost 3 years later since the HR Cafe adventure began, on the 14th of August 2021, so in 2 weeks' time we're celebrating our 3rd year, it is with a lot of emotions, it is with a lot of gratitude that I, Adela Juman Musafir, Director of Talent Lab and founder of HR Cafe, stand before you today. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh wow, this sounds like a classroom already. It wasn't the purpose, but yes, indeed, it's been a wonderful journey. 3 years, 9 editions. It's not been easy. I wouldn't say it's been that difficult though, because having such a warm audience who keeps us on our toes and keeps asking for more has been really the drive. If we're here today, it's a lot because of our followers. Even if you've been only on social media, this has been your first time. We're extremely grateful that you're here. As I always say, we may be a small to medium company, but we are passionate about what we do, and seeing you follow us year after year, it means the world to us. So please keep coming. And please keep watching from a distance and close by what we do. We've treated over the past 3 years several topics. We started in our office. Some of the images you will see have been from our office when we launched. And then we grew. This was supposed to be a platform for 25 people. It was supposed to be a cozy meetup. It is still cozy, but we're now 75 people on average for each of our meetups. So it's been amazing. We've spoken about gender pay gap, we've spoken about circular economy, AI, cybersecurity, and today a hot topic. By the numbers that have showed up today, I think it's something which is pretty pertinent. It's about organizational culture, it's about people, it's about performance. And we all know how the landscape is shifting and the challenges we all face in our different spheres. It hasn't been easy. So, as you know, I don't like to check on my script, but just to make sure that I've covered everything. Yeah, so who said it? Was it Peter Drucker who said that culture eats strategy at breakfast? Yeah? So is strategy the most important, or is it culture? If we want growth, if we want performance, we're going to unpack it all. We talk about the VUCA world, where everything is becoming so complex. So how are we navigating through the VUCA world? And I'm not the expert, I don't have the answers. I don't think any of our panelists will, on our own, have the answers for you. But our aim today is to get closer to the understanding of this term culture. On le dit tout le temps, culture, notre culture est comme ça, la culture de l'entreprise. But what does it really mean? What the heck? You know, I'm in here, let's say I'm a business owner, I'm in here for the bottom line. I need to generate revenue, I need to ensure sustainability, there's so many other concerns. So what about culture? So, with me today are 5 panelists of note who have been handpicked, I have to say. And the very first one is a lady. You may change our screen, please. I'm assisted by a very special young lady here, Gen Z, by the way. And the very first panelist is a lady I have met for the first time today, but I've been following her very closely in the press and media. I've been following her writings on LinkedIn, and she impresses me because she looks at organizations through a philosophical lens, which for me was very surprising. And she unpacks the whole sort of complexity of dynamism in organizations. As a trainer and a philosophy speaker, she's worked in France, she's worked in Dubai, and finally she's come to motherland, and we need her to actually help us make sense of the chaos world. That's the name of her company, actually, In the Chaos World. So I would ask you to please put your hands together to welcome Anushka. Yes. So the second person is a younger panelist, I wouldn't say the youngest, what's an age, right? So he's one of our young panelists. He represents the millennials. He's the MD since recently of Talent Enabler. Before that, he was in the corporate world. He navigated for 5 years in the corporate world in different sectors. And he is a firm advocate of engagement strategies for company growth. Very vocal person, I must say. I first met him at Middlesex University. We were on the panel hosting an employability service workshop, and he really impressed me. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for the one and only Kapish Gaya, our millennial. Thank you, Kapish, for joining us. And the next person, I must say, is a classmate, a friend, who's been in class. You know, those naughty friends who sit with you and just keep sort of going there. But I think we've smiled, we've giggled, we've laughed in class together as we became a master practitioner, each of us, in neuro-linguistic programming and personality profiling. She is a communication and branding specialist. She also is a change management specialist. Here I even have to turn the page over. And she currently sits in a hot seat. She's the Chief Culture and Inclusion Executive at ENL Group. Hot seat, why? Because she recently was part of the team leading the change process when Rogers and ENL just came together. So culture would be interesting there. See how she balanced the act around culture. Please join me, Shyama. Don't be shy. Espresso cup as you come down the stairs. Thank you. Oui, c'est pas exprès. Next to join me is someone who has experienced drastic changes in his sector, the textile sector. And in spite of the countless challenges, the company he works for is a certified great place to work. With cross-border subsidiaries, he fiddles with culture and performance daily. Please welcome Sandesh Mohabir. Head of Special Projects, Sandesh, I must say that you come highly recommended from Jennifer Barbari, Director of Great Place to Work in Mauritius. And she does say you do talk a lot and you have a lot of interesting things to say. So we're very, very pleased to have you with us. And we're very curious about your sharings as well. Last but special, ladies and gentlemen, is someone we at Talent Lab have had the privilege to work with as a leader. She's a leader who leads with her heart in all authenticity and clairvoyance. She commends decades of international experience in academia and management, leadership, and navigates the complexities of working across cultures daily. She's also our venue host for today. Please join me in thanking and welcoming the one and only Marie Jansen van Rensberg. So I'll hold my coffee cup and we'll have an espresso flash before we take our seats. Thank you. Please, ladies and gentlemen, have a seat. Marie, would you like to say a few words? Yeah, of course. Yeah. Put this here, we'll make some space for your cups. You can also sit through during the session.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's lovely to have you on campus, and it's always a pleasure to host the HR Cafe. It's wonderful to see a really diverse group today. And I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation. I must say, I feel quite intimidated by this panel. So, Adina's been nice. She scheduled me for the last week. I've got some time to prepare. At Middlesex, it's all about having practice at the heart of what we do. So I think you will have an opportunity to see our campus today. Next door, we have a hackathon. 16 teams participating. We even have a team from France participating. Again, with industry looking after these youngsters. And we know that all of them will probably walk out with some employment offers at the end of the next 2 days. They will be on campus for 24 hours. So if you see them, have a chat. You know, that's the leaders of tomorrow. And for us, it's a privilege to be part of that journey. In Mauritius, we've been here for almost 15 years. We are growing year on year. And Dominique is over there. She's leading a project where we will be expanding our campus in September. So lots of exciting things happening in Middlesex, at Middlesex. So please have a chat to any of our colleagues. Jean-Francois and Zane is also at the back. If you want to hear more about our wonderful master's programs or the upcoming conference. My background is from marketing, so I'll always take a commercial break with you. So apologies for that, but please know that you are very welcome, and we are looking forward to sharing some ideas with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So just a few housekeeping. If you could please keep your phones on silent for the next hour and a half approximately. The toilets on both ends of the corridor. We will be breaking after the panel discussion. This is new to the HR Cafe format. We haven't had breaks before, but we've heard your feedback. So, but just a 5-minute toilet break or cigarette break, you choose. I didn't say cigarette, by the way. But it's going to be also the time for you, if you see on the desks, we've scattered some sheets of paper and pen. If ever you do have questions, you know, through time we've realized that some questions overlap. So to make maximum impact, we will be collecting your questions at the end of the first 45 minutes. I do have a timekeeper who is going to keep a check on time. So then our hostesses will pass down the questions to Jenny and Nadine sitting in the front, who are going to sift through the questions and send them to the panel. So if you want to go home early, just make sure the break is 5 minutes and that we all finish and do whatever we have to within the 5 minutes and come back, please. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Are my panelists ready? Yes. Great. Okay, so my first question is for the lady in the far end, Anushka. Could you please tell us how has the workforce evolved in the past 2 decades, so past 20 years? If you could refer to the global environment in Mauritius and then end by what the current characteristics of the workforce is.
Well, that's a crucial and, of course, complex question. I think that the workplace has undergone significant evolution, and I would say mainly due to 2 criteria. The first one is globalization, which we have all observed, but whose pace has increased a lot. And we can, of course, see a lot of companies outsourcing workforce abroad. We all see that a lot of people are looking for jobs in very remote countries, and they are not afraid anymore to go very far away of their home. And here in Mauritius, actually, we are very aware of that with all this phenomenon of brain drain. And just to remember you that we are the first country on the African continent regarding the number of people going out of the country each year. So that's a really crucial question for us here in Mauritius. And also, well, I think that the consequence of this very massive globalization movement is that now each company in the world is in competition with the whole world. And I'm not saying only about the sales and marketing point of view, but also in terms of recruitment. And that's very new. And also with globalization and increasing mobility, we are also faced, of course, with the question regarding culture and cultural differences. And we know that's now a topic that every company has to deal with. So that will be my first, I would say, first criterion regarding your question. Second one would be technological advancement. And well, again, we have all experienced these technological changes in the workplace. First will be a remote job, but on a large scale, of course, in the COVID-19 time. But then we can think about automation, the arrival of intelligence artificial in the workplace, and a lot of new jobs have been created, and the workplace has been is changing a lot with all these new technology arriving. And I will add, to finish, maybe the place of social networks, and especially the way the younger generation deal with social networks. And we can can see that it sometimes creates a gap with the older colleagues. And for example, I know that in some communication department, the way the colleagues, the Gen Z and younger colleagues are dealing with the social networks and with all these tools from the technological side can create some kind of gap with the older generation. Just want to say that all these criteria we are talking about in the workplace, but actually they are here they have impact in all spheres of our life. Just to give another example, we have so many families where the grandparents are living in different countries than their grandchildren, and sometimes that creates some kind of cultural differences within the family, and not to mention that usually grandparents don't even understand the fascination of the youngers for TikTok, for example. So what we are saying have some very physical consequences on in the workplace, but it happens in all the sphere of our life. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very very thought-provoking what you said. Talking of the younger generation, let's turn to Kapish. Kapish, as somebody who is sort of representing, sorry about this, you'll have to be bold, mate, and you represent the millennials.
It sounds like a great idea.
I wouldn't say the Gen Z, but from your perspective, sitting there, you know, in this room, we have the Gen Xers, we have all the generations. I think we're very multi-generational. Can you help us understand what the term culture means to the younger generations, and how does it resonate with the new entrants on the labour market?
Thank you, Dina, for that. Before I start, I want to ask you, the panelists, I mean, we've been here, we're amazing. I don't think we'll give solutions to all of them, but
sure.
Maybe now to the audience, how many of you struggle to really manage the new generations?
Okay, let's be honest. Everyone. Let's be honest, please.
It can be your kids, and it's not being wrong. How many of you find it hard to recruit young generations? Very rare again. Okay. How many of you find it hard to retain them, to make them work for fun? There we go.
What's your definition of young?
I'll get to that. So, let me tell you, I don't have an answer for you. None of you. Okay, so I think there's 3 elements to today's values system, and it actually is in the DNA of my own startup. When I started my own venture, I was like, how do I accentuate on talent? The first one is, I think, very clear, is how you attract talent to your organization. The second is how do you adapt with them. And the third is how do you achieve with them. Right? So I think there's 3 distinct pillars for each of, or for any talent management framework or whatever you want to do in your business. When I talk about attracting, it's all about what's the experience you make your employees live in the inside, and how do you portray to the outside world. The first edge, which I think is really, really high, is how many of you are hiring on TikTok? That's the number 1 nugget I can give you. Yes, I'm a consultant, I'm not selling my services. But yeah, how many of you are present on TikTok, doing advertising on TikTok? This is rocket science, guys. I'm sad, there's only 2 free hands on the side, but I'm not telling you to recruit as a consultant, but you know, it's not 3 nuggets.
Thank you, Kapish. We got the cue.
I think number 2 for me is, what is the brand that you are trying to show in the outside world? Are you really portraying, you know, your millennials, Gen Zs towards the recruitment market? Who are you sending to job fairs? Are you sending just experienced leaders, or are you sending your young, I would say, representative? Coming to that, it's, for me, to really attract, you need to have a graduate program. There's no other way for you to attract young talent. Why? Because if you create a young graduate program, you will have them for 1 year. You know, you will put them in a program, you will train them, you will give them the mentoring, which is very, very niche to Mauritius. My generation, the biggest challenge we face as a millennial, you know, I'm not Y and Z, making me a bit, you know, less young. We were taken to a job. It's like we throw you in the ocean, you need to learn. and you need to survive. How many of you have been in these situations? You can raise your hands, right? My parents have been in that. We've all been in that. But this new generation requires hand-holding. Guys, it's sad, but they've been fed by the spoon till a really late age. I'm sorry, Mary, but you feel it. I'm sure parents trust you with admissions. But that generation at work, they expect the same thing. Give them a graduate program, give them training, but give them mentoring on the job. And put them on a training program. Rotate them in departments. Let them have an overview of how the business works. Then by themselves, they will know where they will shine, and they will choose the departments for at least 2 or 3 years. But when you do that, you're already having them for 1 year. Number 3, I think, to really attract people to work for you, it's very simple. It's how do you play with them. By play, I mean, how many of you give salary? Everyone does that. Everyone gives traveling allowances. How many of you break down the total cost into an education allowance, or just give them an account on any learning platform? EDX, Mind Valley, you've got so many now. Toastmasters, whatever, you've got so many. How many of you are giving that as an offering? If you join me, you will get 1 year Toastmasters. You will get 1 year, 6 months in EDX. You will get 6 months in, what learning platforms. That's just for you to attract. The person is not here yet, but you will attract them, right? So I'm telling you can attract young graduates who are coming from universities. You're attracting seasoned employees, professionals. How do you learn with the organization? Now I'm moving to the second pillar. It's how do you really adapt? Adaptation, guys, it's something very, very interesting. Shama is now heading the diversity and inclusion. It's crazy, but it's been here since Mauritius was created. For me, diversity and inclusion, as Anushka said, there's a huge brain drain, and it will keep on happening. How do you address that? Very simple. Is you just need to adapt with them. How to adapt, that's when it comes tricky. How many of you thought before diversity was just having female, on board level? It's not the case anymore. If you look at it, now diversity is about having a multi-generation workforce. It's about having your kids working with you. It's about your younger ages of your kids working with you. That being said, how many of you really make your employees feel included by celebrating their work anniversaries? Raise your hands. Good. We see 20%. That is bang on. We don't celebrate birthdays. Birthdays, anyone can celebrate it. But work anniversaries is something that you really make someone feel included in your organization. If you're a small SME, give, a 200 voucher. If you're a big company, give, a small trophy, These things matter for inclusion. And I think the last part in adapting, it's how often do you make your managing director, your CEO, do forums? How many of you get the chance to do that? Raise your hands. At least every quarter? Every 3 months. You see? The problem is we think that the higher-ups stay higher-ups in their offices, in the people they mingle with, and that is where the disconnect happens. After COVID, we had the Great Resignation. It was a rise of purpose. Everyone wanted to change jobs. Now it's silent quitting. The new generation and the other generations, they will quit, but they will never tell you why. And your exit interviews will just be a paper. So now, it's towards you to do town halls, have your managing directors, have your leadership team members do it, because that's just communication. I would love, to see managing directors walking and welcoming staffs every second Monday or every Monday, because that is how the world works. You will just see their cars, see, oh, that guy is super rich, super well established, but you can't even have a cup of coffee or even chat with them. How many of you feel that? I mean, youngsters, you can't approach your MD, yeah? Some of you do that? I hope not, because that should not be the case. Now I'm moving to the more critical aspect, which is how do you really achieve with them? Achieving results, but achieving human nature, I think it's human needs. You need to achieve with the generation. So the number one is...
sorry, just to cut you. Can we go to the achievement and generating results at the second part, if you don't mind? We'll just carry on with the understanding the current situation.
So really achieving together, it's very simple. I think I've got friends from BAMS here. Yes, I can still. banks just started something. The government, the budget just gave childcare allowance. Banks started to give more money on childcare allowance. This is how you really achieve with the generations. We need more kids, yes. The young generation needs to make more kids, but how do you partner with them? Number two is, I think, okay, I'll just end up on that. You know, how to really adapt is there's two challenges. The young generation faces household debt and educational debt. They have to buy houses. The government is giving money, subsidies, you know, to people taking house loans. So are you making the effort? Are you giving like 200 rupees, 300 rupees, whatever it is? Or are you giving urban home coupons, you know, when they build houses? And I think the last part, you know, how to really achieve with them, it's how do you make them feel comfortable to come at work every day? By that, it's how do you welcome them and how do you interact with them? So I'll end up in that. Of course, I've given a lot of solutions, but it's all about how your passion is to have a great place to work. And I think that's my colleague Sandish's accreditation.
Thank you, Kathy. So just to sort of summarize a bit what you said, the culture from what I get from your responses has been the culture of the new generations is we need to be technology adapters as employers. We need to be on TikTok. We need to sort of embrace digital with them at their own pace. We need to collaborate with them. We need to value them, give them their space to understand at their own pace at times maybe, and find their way through guidance, mentoring, education. Give them little things, but it's not so little, is education opportunities, continuous learning opportunities, and be very mindful of their needs as we go along and see them. We really need to see them and connect with them on a day-to-day basis if we want the results. Thank you for that. Thank you. So, Marie, coming to you as an employer within a multinational organization, and yourself being a non-Mauritian, what is the relevance of culture for you? I mean, you're working across culture, diversity, and everything else. And so how do you navigate this culture? How do you bring it together? And how important is it, if at all, in your job?
So this is interesting. I want to create some context here. What we need to understand when we look at culture, we look at who's our community. Now, for a lot of you have clients on the one hand, or customers that comes and go. At Middlesex, students stay for an average of 3 years, some 4 years, some 5 years. So actually our students are part of our community. So it starts with who's your community. We need to understand that the culture is not just employees, it is also our students. So then you look at scale, right? So on our campus, there's around 1,800 students. There's around 120 staff members. But then we're part of a bigger community because our parent company is in the UK. Our sister company is in Dubai. And what brings us together is who we are as a community. But now bear in mind that we are talking about 140 different nationalities. So you can see the complexity. So I'm going to just keep it short and give you a couple of things that we do that works for us. So we've defined our community first. And for us to operate as a community and as a cohesive community, we know what our community principles are. But then a community principle can be interpreted, so you need to break that down. Break it down in terms of what are the required behaviors that support each of these principles. So on campus you will see a lot of evidence or reminders of our principles. You will see it in everything that we do. So from a performance review perspective, we link our objectives to our community principles. From a review perspective, we have a competency framework. So people know what it means to be respectful, because respectful for me could be different to what respectful for you means. So we have broken it down to say this is what we expect. But then, of course, communication is absolutely key as well. How do we communicate? How do we communicate as staff with students, as colleagues among each other? And for that, we have created different forums. So for students, for example, they have student voice groups. They have forums where they get to meet all of us in Capesh. They get to meet the senior management.
Yeah, I was middle 60.
And I know, and you know, it's not just about meeting the senior management, it's coming there with solutions, because that's part of our community principles, being action orientated. So, you know, people don't come to me with problems. They come to me with suggestions to address the problem. And you know, staff knows this. We don't go to Maurice saying, this is a problem. We go and say, I've got an idea. And then I listen. When someone comes to me and says, I've got a problem, I say, well, so do all of us. You know? So it's about communicating. We have a people's forum where we get to speak to staff. And staff, the people forum members, integrate with different staff groups. So it's about being coherent. It's also about understanding what inclusivity and diversity means. So we celebrate differences. So this is one of the things as an expat that I absolutely love about Mauritius. You know, when it's Diwali, we celebrate Diwali. When it's Ramadan, we celebrate Ramadan. When it's Christmas, we celebrate Christmas. Food. You know, when we have functions, students and staff, we do it around. Yesterday we had a barbecue, which is a very South African thing. And I think I was the inspiration for that, because my family have a barbecue every Friday evening. But the next get-together will be Mauritian food. The cafeteria serve different food. We come to work at certain points in times with our traditional way. But then it's also about well-being. So we have a really good structure in place to take care of well-being. My head is sitting there. He's one of our counsellors. He's the head of well-being services. But it's not just about well-being. So if you walk around on the campus, there's a gym on campus. We've got trainers on campus. And the students and the staff exercise in that gym, and that's where they talk. It's about creating opportunities for conversations. So to summarize it, it's about understanding inclusivity is more than just diversity. I always use the example that, you know, equality is inviting someone to a dance. Inclusivity is about dancing with a person, right? So we create opportunities for inclusivity. It's about celebrating differences, but it's also about understanding expectations. I think if we can manage expectations in the workplace, we've gone a long way. Because Kapish, you've said it rightly, you know, not all of us can give a 5,000 voucher when someone buys a house. But it's about being seen, it's about being recognized, and that's some of the things we do. But it is complex, and I think regardless of your own situation, you need to understand who's your community, because I think at the end of the day, culture starts with community. This is the one thing that I will say. All these written statements means nothing. It's pure decorations if you don't live it. And if you don't see role model behavior. And if you want to see role model behavior, you need to incorporate those principles in the day-to-day living and breathing of an organization.
Thank you so much, Maria. I think that's been very insightful on how you navigate through this diverse workforce that you're in, and including your end how it's the students and not the clients, but your end service, the ones benefiting from your services. And I totally agree with you. It can just be a flower on the wall if it's a nice writing up there, but we're not embracing it and embodying in our actions. And just to say, you know, we've heard from 3 panelists. Of course, you know, some solutions are more apt for different, let's say, large organizations, but there are key takeaways in here that we adapt and we fine-tune based on our own reality. And I think that's the beauty of it. We don't need, some of them just don't cost money. Seeing somebody doesn't cost anything. Wouldn't you agree, Shyama, talking of communication, seeing as a form of communication, how about that? So culture and communication, let's come to you. Is there a relationship between that? And if yes, how can you relate to this sort of recent major exercise that you've been through?
That will take a whole day to explain.
Oh, we've got coffee outside.
And I'm not sure that this is a forum, or I am the spokesperson to speak about all that. I think,
but your key observations would be interesting.
Sure, but I think as far as communications and culture is concerned, I think Marie said it very clearly. Communication lies at the very foundation of culture, right? Because what is culture at the end of the day? It's human interaction, right? It's when people interact, then culture happens. No interaction, there is no culture. So it's about our interaction. And if that interaction is based on clear communication, or authentic communication, and I insist on authenticity, I think that then we have the best chances for a positive culture to emerge, right? So, yeah, so the short answer to your question, Adira, is communication is at the basis, at the foundation of culture. And if I may develop a little bit on that one, I think that as an enterprise, as an employer, what you want to have is employees who are engaged towards the company, right? You want to have employees who are positive-minded, who are creative, who take risks, and all that sort of things, which come together to make performance happen, for there to be high performance, right? But for all this for the employee to behave in such a way, in a performing way, that employee has to buy into your purpose, into why you exist as a company, into why you do what you do, and how does why you exist and what you do tie up with who you say you are, right? So that's when authenticity happens, when there is alignment on this, right? So if you say that you are a great place to work, and then, I'm not saying that for you, I'm just saying ENL companies are a great place to work also. If you're saying that you're a great place to work, but actually nothing in your work environment that you create adds to, make people feel comfortable and make people feel creative and all that kind of thing. So there is a mismatch here. So it's fair and fine that you have ticked all the boxes and then you have gone through the process and you have a certification and you can communicate about that. But if bottom line, you're not living it, as Maurice said, if you're not living it, if it's not actually happening at the workplace, then you are lying. So you can get away with it for a few days maybe, but sooner or later it will, yes, it will come back to you. And when that happens, mistrust settles in, and when there is no trust, then there is no engagement, then yeah, just forget it. So I come from a communication background, marketing background, so I'll talk to you about this in a marketing lingo, if I may. When a brand is authentic, it must be seen to be aligned for three factors, okay? So what the brand says it is, its DNA, its identity, right? What the brand does, and what the brand, so what I am, what I say, and what I do. If there is no alignment in there, and forget about if there is no alignment, if the public does not see the alignment, that perception is very important. So if you are not seen to be aligned, there is no trust happening here. And once there is no trust, people won't buy in. And it's the same for the employee. I mean, the employee is no different from the consumer, is it? At your workplace, they are working for you, and when they go out of the office and out of the workplace, they are the consumers. So it's the same principle that applies. You need to be aligned, and you need to walk it up. And as I said, the three pillars is what you are, what you do, and what you say. So the say is the communication part. To come back to your question here. So you don't need, once you communicate, you need to communicate who you really are and what you really do. Don't go overhype. Don't go and tell beautiful stories about how things are in your head, but actually don't tie up with what you are in reality. Yeah, so that's what, according to me, lies at the basis of positive culture.
Thank you so much. I've taken note of this. We'll come back to the point of who you are, what you say, and what you do. I'll just jump to Sandesh. Sandesh, I know that I know you come from the textile industry. We all know that the evolution of the textile industry has been quite a story in Mauritius. Yet, with the workforce challenges, automation, mechanization, and all of that, we've had a lot of foreign labor coming in the industry. Yet, as head of projects, HR projects at Ciel, you and your team has been able to be Great Place to Work certified. What's the role of culture in it? Because obviously, you're in Mauritius, you're still very active as a textile group. Performance competition is really, all of that are really demanding. So how do you sort of do the balancing act?
In fact, Alida, first thing, the reason to be Great Place to Work, it's not because we wanted to have the certificate. You will see that for information, we have 2 companies in the best 20 companies at the top 5, but we have been very subtle and discreet about it. We haven't communicated. Why? Because we have financial KPIs. We can have a finance cafe to explain all the KPIs with profitability, all the things, all the ratio. We have KPIs on customer satisfaction. We have customers asking us to rate, to give their ideas. But what about the people? Do they have a forum to express themselves? As a company, what we are doing, are we doing good? What are the things all centered about excellence at grosshood, excellence at core, our people, our goals, so we needed a barometer. So that's why the Great Place to Work. And what we did, in fact, the Great Place to Work threshold is 65%. What we said internally, we want 80%. So another reason why there haven't been too much communication, because we are not satisfied. We want to develop a culture which enable us to be aligned with our vision. We want to be the best in the industry. We have our mission that we want to improve fashion every day, and our values. So today, for example, jumping on what Kapish and Sharma said in terms of accessibility of leaders. You know, today in Ciel Textile, out of the 22,000 people, only 1.5% is the top team. Then you have around 13% which are the staff, and 85% are in fact the people who are doing the work. And we need to do to provide a culture where they can express themselves. And what we do is that we work on this 1.5% that they are able to walk the talk, to showcase what our values are. And what's interesting in the Great Place to Work is that, for example, we have questions linked with leaders. Today we have added questions per leader. So I'm a leader, I can have my results from my subordinates. Am I given the proper tools to do my job? Am I given the good training? My manager avoid playing the favorites. I like this question. You know? So as a leader, you're having all those indexes from your people, and the communication is made that we want people to express themselves. The idea is not to have a tag, is not to have a brand, a Great Place to Work logo or whatever. The idea is to improve. And so this is about the culture that we are creating. And today we have an academy which is responsible for the dissemination of the vision, mission, values, and all these things. For example, if you go in a company in Mauritius and in a company in Bangladesh, you will be practically like in the same place. So everything from the jargons, from the paintings, the colors, all these things have been standardized, and the training as well. So today, as a leader, I am being trained, assessed, and developed in a way so that I can accompany my people. And the culture is that excellence, performance. In textile, it's all about performance, and just ensuring that our people are equipped so that they can do their job. So just to come back to the workforce, I have some statistics for you. For example, in the 1970s when Ciel Textile started, we were let's focus on demographics. So what was the situation is that we were having abundance of workers in Mauritius, but the management, the know-how to do textile, we were not having. So throughout time, what has happened is that in terms of labor, with regards to the development of Mauritius, we have to bring foreign labor. We started with the Chinese labor force, then we have Indians, now we have more and more Malagasy. So things have evolved, and today what is happening is that we are not only having a talent shortage in terms of the workers category, but we are also having a shortage in the staff category and management. So it's two-way. So this means that we are a merchant company, but with a very cosmopolitan workers and staff. So how do we manage all this? Plus we have international operations in 4 countries. I'm not talking about the officers also in the other countries, but how do we create something which is culturally fit for all these workplaces? And we have 20 production units, and we need to talk the same language. So this is a bit what we are doing, and it's a tough job, but we have today built throughout time our own jargons. For example, when 2 managers of CL Textile is debating, you may find words like your butt is not good, but if I'm telling you here your butt is not good, it's you're building Olympic team, which is not good. It's basically organization design. So we have created our own jargons: excellence at grassroots, sticks in the wheel, fit, misfit. So sometimes it's like another language, but whether it's in Bangladesh, Madagascar, Mauritius, or India,
it's the DNA.
It's embedded. So what I was telling is that it's something that has been constructed throughout the years, but we need to be very careful. This can be easily eroded if not well taken care of.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Just before we continue, a little reminder that you've got sheets of paper. Now is your time, if you have questions, to just jot them down. Hadia and Tisha will be collecting them afterwards. You will ask the questions, but we will just do a little bit of a sorting to ensure everybody gets an opportunity to ask questions. So please start writing your questions. We just have 10 minutes left more, and then we will collect them before we break. Okay, so I just want to throw a question, having listened to all of you, and whoever feels free, please just take the question. When I'm hearing you talk, this sense of the organization knowing its higher purpose, its ultimate mission, its vision, is that really the starting point of where your culture grows from? And is that the enabler, or is it something else? If you were, you spoke about the community, for example, Marie being the students being an integral part of it, and the the diversity of your team. How does your mission as an organization with your higher purpose connect to that? And is it important for it to connect? Maybe Anushka.
Well, from my experience, that was not the mission of the workplace historically. So
Yes.
that's very new. And what I can see, again, from my experience, is that a lot of companies and a lot of managers, because they are formatted that way, they are trying to take what they know and to duplicate it to this cultural topic. For example, they are trying to take all this financial performance KPI and try just to translate it to the culture sector. I've been to meetings where managers say, okay, well, what's the KPI regarding the culture? There's no KPI. That's not the way it's going to work, actually. It's going to be a different path. And that's very, very difficult to change the mindset and to say, we are not going to achieve this point at this time of the year with this kind of performance indicator. That's not, because we're talking only about human factor, that's going to be different. And for some of the managers, it's a waste of time. We're going to take some time, we're going to take the employees out of their jobs to think about all this kind of like exotic stuff, you know, and it's very difficult for them, and it's really about changing the mindset. And again, that's new. I mean, that's been here for like what, 10, 15 years? So that's kind of new. They were educated to achieve financial performance, economical growth, and now we're talking about almost psychological stuff, you know. So I think one of the main thing is they need to understand, and we're all here together in the same boat, but to how to bring this change actually, and it's really to shift completely the paradigm.
Thank you. Just before you answer, Shama, I'm just thinking of the evolution of the workforce. The push for growth came from after World War, when industries were rebuilding themselves, and focus was on numbers and building a better a better economy. So that's where we inherited it from, I would presume, isn't it? And so we've kept on going with this push, but the Gen Zs and the millennials, etc., are pushing for a change in values at this moment.
Yeah, of course, and a lot of you said it, but it needs, the sentence we all know, the walk the talk, it needs to be authentic. I just remember now something I experimented, maybe very quick, I want to share with you. I did a talk for a very big American group, and it was about culture and values. And at one point, one of the employees, she raised her hand and she said, why are we talking about values? Why is it a matter of the company? She said, I'm fed up about always hearing about values, and I can hear in what she said that it was only theoretical and it was not here in her day-to-day life. And she was like, that's my business, my values, my family. I don't want to talk about it in the company. And that was really interesting. And I told her, you know what, you're right actually, because historically that was not the place for a company to say what are your values. It was church, family, and that's it. So that's very new, and we need to understand that's a new role now that companies have.
Geez, okay, so we're sort of in a blurred sort of area and transition period.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
which makes this very interesting, of course.
Interesting, yes, Shama.
Yeah, just to totally agree with you with what has been happening. As you may know that the Rogers and Yenel, Rogers is a subsidiary of Yenel Group, the one that I work for. And recently, actually we are right in the middle of it, our two head officers have merged to become one, which means two companies. One is 125 years old, that's Rogers. We are 200 years old, that's Yenel, merging. So you can imagine the ambiance.
And now, can we ask your age?
Sorry?
Can we ask your age?
My age? I'm 16 plus lots of experience. So this new function has been created in the wake of this merger, which I have I don't know if it's a privilege, but I take it that way, to head culture and inclusion. So I was doing a type of a small roadshow, going to explain to my colleagues in Rogers that, hey, I'm culture and inclusion now, and this is what I do. And there was one year later,
I was at Rogers.
20 plus something, he said, looks at me with a very serious face and said, you know, this culture bullshit, pardon my French, I'm just quoting, culture, this is this corporate bullshit, I don't believe in it. Now, fancy that, you're there to sell your product and then you have this in your face. And so what do you do? What do you say? And he said exactly that a company is a place where you work and you get paid for it. That's it. You don't come here to be a family. You don't come here to have culture and to have values and that kind of stuff. Actually, he is right, and that's exactly what I told him, that you are right. A company is not a family, and don't go around saying or putting culture in a place of like family bonding or family building type of place. That's not the culture that we're talking about. When you bring culture at company level, what we're talking about is how do you create a sense of oneness, a sense of team, so that we can all go in the same direction? How can we create a sense of alignment so that we all push in the same direction to attain the objective that is common? Hence the communication part. That how do we all go, put our energies together so that we achieve a common goal? And that goal has to be worthy for each one of us. That goal has to speak to what's in us at our own level. And that's why the why is important actually. Because if that goal is purely, let's say for example, I don't know, something which doesn't speak to me from a personal, cultural, my personal beliefs, let's say I'm vegetarian, and that's a fact. I'm vegetarian. And if you put me to work in a company, in a butcher shop, let's say. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't align with my values. I won't work for you. It's as simple as that, right? So this is a simplistic example, but just to tell you that companies have to pay attention to the fact that whether what they are saying and whether what they are doing, is it aligned to the workforce? Because actually, the workforce is the one who's going to make things happen. Bricks and mortars, logos, that's not what the company is. It's the people who are the companies, right? And for that, we have to make sure that there is a sense of purpose, there is a sense of direction, and that it speaks to everybody at some level, not at all levels. We are not going to talk about what your religious beliefs are, etc., etc. Then again, maybe we will, but not at that level. This is not the church, this is not the house, the home, it's not the family, it's work. But it has to be able to speak to you in some ways, otherwise you'll be disengaged, or you won't come at all.
Thank you, Shama, for that. Anyone else before we just close this part of the session? Yeah? Okay.
Info News.
Whoever's ready, please just name the person who's got the question. And if the person can just stand up, introduce yourself and ask the question that you've asked to the panelists. So we will be taking panelist-specific questions first, and then the general ones. Okay, so how do we do this? Marie, would you like to start, or do you need some time? Okay, who's the question, the person who's asked the question?
Shiny or Shiny?
Shiny. Yes, Shiny, please introduce yourself.
Hi, so I'm Shiny. I'm the Head of Human Resources for Access Bank UK. I'm based in London, and so I'm here on holiday, and this is perfect for me. So my question is, how does faith impact an organization culture? Because so Access Bank is a big bank in Africa, so that's our parent company. We've got an office in London. We are now expanding into Malta, Paris, Hong Kong, Dubai. And faith is a big thing because we start all our meetings with prayers. And considering that we are dealing with 100 plus nationalities just in London, now when we expand is how do we translate that culture, but more importantly, how do we pay particular attention to faith across different countries?
Thank you.
So that's a really difficult question, and I'm going to maybe take two angles to this, if it's okay. First of all, from an organizational perspective, and then second of all, from my perspective as the head of the organization, right? So from an organizational perspective, we respect faith. I don't think we are critical about different faiths. We celebrate faith. So what we do on our organizational calendar, there are key events which we celebrate. And when we celebrate Diwali, for example, it's our Hindi colleagues that would host the event, and they would cater for the event, and they would share with us information about that particular day and why it is special for them. And we would then, embrace that. So we really try and get colleagues to host these events and colleagues to share these events. So that's the first thing. We don't start things with prayers, but we have different perspectives. So for me, instead of sending out on social media, for example, messages to say, Happy Diwali, Happy Ramadan, Happy Christmas, we have a standard approach where the institution wishes the believers of that faith well with that event. We also try and provide more information about it. So it's more, this is for your information, and we celebrate it with you. In terms of my own faith, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. I ask for wisdom every morning. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But I will never try and use the organization to convert people. My faith for me is personal. And if someone wants to talk to me about my faith, I'm happy to do so. But I'm not going to initiate conversations around it because I do not think it's the right place. Because that sort of, when you look at inclusivity, when you try and force a specific religion, it destroys inclusivity. So I think from our perspective, that's how we do it. We provide more information, we celebrate it as a community, but we don't take one particular faith and then we start with prayer, for example. That's not something we would do. If that's an answer. But you know what, I think it's different for different organizations, but I think you're very insensitive to some extent if you take one religion and put it above others.
And I think it's country dependent as well. If one country wants to start with a prayer, it doesn't mean that other 5 countries should follow it to make it a culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So then who's ready for the next question? Anushka, you said a big yes. Who's the person who's asked you the question?
Well, I have 2 questions. I think I can answer both in the same time, but maybe you can listen to both questions. First one is Lavinia. It's to both Shaman me about the work values.
Yeah. Yes, Anushka. I'm Lavinia from Insight Inspired. I'm a management consultant. My question was, how would you bring, Shama also spoke about it, we don't bring the value. People have, I think it's Cafe who said, value, you bring values to the, why do we bring values to the office, yeah? But then we still need that value, like Shama explained, bringing it all together. But my values as a person may not be the same as your value, corporate value. So how do you bring that alignment together so that I feel aligned as a person with your values? It's bringing also to what she just said about faith, whether we bring that faith and prayers in all the countries or only in one.
And the second one?
Yeah, it's Shoaib. Shoaib?
Yeah. Please stand up, Shoaib.
Shoaib. I've got my own company, Novanta, so focus on accompanying people to achieve value in the organization. And this is something that I come across a lot. I'm very focused in terms of technology areas, but technology doesn't work without people. And I do believe about values, alignment, and people can work together as a team. But where I struggle is, you have a section of the workforce who doesn't believe in, you talking anything about me, you talk values, culture, but how do you get these guys on board? How do you communicate that with them? So this is one of the questions.
Thank you.
So maybe I'll try to, because it's very similar to answer both. Well, again, from my experience, I will differentiate good values and bad values, which doesn't make any sense because a value should be by definition good. But then I will tell you what I mean by a bad value. Well, a good value, for me, need to have at least 3 characteristics. The first one, it needs to be applied without compromising. And that's really important because we all know that. We all know this situation where a value will be implemented in this particular situation, and then the manager won't be an example of this particular value. So applied without compromising. But then second characteristic, and it will appear to you as a paradox, but it's not. The value should be flexible, and that's why when I'm going to answer your question, because of course, again, we are talking about human factor. This value should be adapted to each employee, and that's the difficult part because I think every time you are talking about uniformization and standardization, it's not working. So, for example, let's take tolerance, and that's a big value in your company, but then at some point, one of your employees is dealing with something really difficult in his or her personal life, and she's not in a place where she can bring this tolerance in her workplace right now because of something really, I don't know, like dealing with death, for example, something really, or sickness, something really difficult. So then it's not about saying, okay, you are an exception. It's just about being flexible in this physical moment. So it needs to be applied without compromising to everyone, but in the same time, being flexible regarding who is here in front of me and what she or he is living in his life right now. Then it's really difficult because I would say that the default of that is that the company will become un cabinet de psychologie. That's not the place, but there is a really fine line to find, and yeah, that's tricky, of course. And the third characteristic is that the value should be realistic. And we talked a little bit about that before, and I really think that employees are very sensible to that. I'm going to give one example. I think that 90% of the companies for which I've worked have innovation as a value, but they are not innovating at all. And one of the reasons is that in order to innovate, you need to have space, mental and intellectual space to innovate. You don't have a day-to-day life like you are so stressed by figures, objective meetings, Excel sheets, and then, yeah, of course I'm going to innovate. That's not possible. I mean, from a psychological point of view, that's not possible. And when you look at in history, what I call the expert of innovation, that's our scientists and artists, they had very different life from the one usually we have, with a lot of freedom, and they were experimenting very different kind of things. So if I'm leading a company and I want my employee to innovate, I need to give them at some point the space and opportunity to innovate and to think out of the box and to think differently. So you can't tell them, okay, it's 8:05, you were supposed to be here at 8, and at the same time, you know, oh, be free and innovate. That's absolutely not possible. So a value should be realistic. So I think there are, of course, many of more characteristics, but these three, I think, maybe it's a kind of ground basis. And I just want to add quickly another thought I had in my mind. Values can't replace the lack of skills or competency. That's not possible. And a lot of companies have the tendency to do that. We were talking about that with Corinne at the break, like, oh, let's make pizza party, yeah, and culture, and yeah, everyone is having fun together, but then the manager doesn't have any skills. So that won't do anything. And so that's a very important thing. That's what I call the cosmetic part of the values and culture. And a lot of companies are doing only makeup. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just surface level.
Yeah.
Okay, Shama, you have something to add quickly to this?
Yes. I propose another point of view. If the company is a human being, it's an entity, right? So it's a just for a moment, imagine that the company is a human being. So that entity, that human being, has its own values. It has a sense of self, right? It has a sense of what it wants to be and how it wants to be seen. Okay? That's where values start, right? And now, how does the entity, the company, that individual, communicate that to the employees? Communicate. So talk about it. Values are often quite, intangible. Make it tangible, make it concrete, put words on it, put symbols there, craft a story. What is a narrative, you know? Then it becomes something that can be communicated. That's it. Now, second part of the question was, if my values are not aligned to those of the entity, what do? Go, live. Yes. One. If you can't live, and if you think that your values, you can evolve, then make the effort, engage with the company, make the effort to learn and to understand where the values are, and go for the synchronization. Again, communicate, right? It's a two-way process. It's interaction. It's only from interaction that the rest comes, right? That's one. Second thing is something that you just said, Anushka, is values don't replace skills. That's for sure. But I think that skills can always be acquired, right? You train people, put the money, put the resources, train people. That's the easy part. What's not the easy part is getting the right people on board so that they are aligned, so that they don't jump off the train. And that's where recruitment comes in, right? So if you're sure about who you are and what you are clear on what you stand for, then you go and look for those people who are the most aligned to you at the outset. Right? Don't try to put a square in a circle. That's very difficult. Try at the very outset to get as much people as you can who are like you. And those who are not, maybe along the way they will be contaminated, and they will evolve, and they will, be aligned to you. And if they still are not, then they will drop off the train, and that's fine.
Thank you, Shama, for the franc-parler. Kapish has been burning to reply his question. I'll just ask you, conscious of time. Conscious of time. Let's try to keep our answers succinct. I know time is not enough. This could be like a 2-day conference, actually, thinking of it. But let's try to make the most of the last 25 minutes left.
I think Fazila, you could just...
Fazila, yes. Please introduce yourself. Yes.
Yeah, hello mate. So I am Deputy Director and Associate Professor from Amity, the higher education institution that you all know. I had the question like, you said the very good thing which attracted me because I was a bit late, and then I got your point. Basically to celebrate the anniversaries of the employees, which is something new, and we celebrate their birthdays. Okay. So when leaders force, there are two things. We embrace values, okay, and we get motivated to work. But there are two categories. Few are forced to embrace the values, few are motivated to embrace the values, and everyone aligns to the work. Every organization has a mix of this. People need the work, people need to sustain there. And you have these two categories. And such employees, how do they celebrate the success of their leaders?
Thank you, good question. Yeah, you can say thank you for that. I think there is two ways of looking at it. I myself, I teach at university level. It's very challenging, I can tell you, because the concept about university these days are about, giving the students a set of skills, a set of academic research, which is very important, and giving them a sense of how they apply their skill set, when they go to the job market. By these three elements, the biggest challenge is who are feeding these youngsters. We're trying to, let's say, we're trying to make a good fabric, for every person that will be woven into the world of work. Number one is you have a lot of challenges in terms of if your own, I would say lecturers, I guess that's your staff, they're not well motivated themselves, they will try to replicate how they've been taught academics and would make their students do that. I've got the great privilege to study in two different continents. One was Malaysia and one was Malta. I realized that the culture of learning is your problem. And that's why people are paying a lot of money to come and study with you. So how do you make it work? Number one is, I think you need to have a good percentage of recruiting lecturers often. How do you do that? The ones that are permanent, they've been there for a long time, you give them a support lecturer. So these guys are younger, they're more applied, I don't know if you agree with me, Marie, and they're more up to date with the youngsters' language. That jargon of understanding the language of the new generation is critical. You will never survive. If you look at Harvard, for example, how their faculties are built up, you've got a part of academics, then you've got one link that does the relevancy to the younger generations. That's how they sell executive courses, for example. I think that is the magic. If you want to teach the youngsters in their own language, get someone that understands their language. And you create think tanks that can bring both together. That's how recruitment works. That's how you look for the best fits. So I think that's how you keep your staff motivated, because they got peer-to-peer reviewed. Even as faculty representatives, they are peer-to-peer reviewed. And the end product is what? You're keeping your students engaged, and you don't let them, perish in certain elements. A lot of us hated subjects because they have wrong teachers. Raise your hands. Yes, a lot of us. We've been fed in a certain way that was not relevant to our language. So that's where the disconnect happens. So I hope I answered your question. Coming to the work anniversary, I'll just give you a few tips. You have MailChimp, it's free. You can just put in, okay, that employee, it's his birthday on that day. So you just send him a populated, automated message or email. You don't need to go and greet them work anniversary. If you have money, okay, you can go at their desk. But if you have the time, just go at their desk and just give them a certificate, print it on Canva, just get it done. I think it's not a loud thing. I think it's a practical thing, and we're all humans. And I think I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kapish.
My second question was Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin.
Yeah, so I'm Robin Fulchan. I work for a consulting group with some projects across Africa, the HRP. So my question is about this business of hand-holding younger generation at work. And what about the older people in top management who perhaps also need hand-holding? So how does it work for them? Because it seems to me that they are lost generation and don't have a clue what's happening. And even what Anushka said earlier, it's about this cosmetic thing around play acting culture. So they are lost. So what can we do about that?
It's waste holding.
Well, thank you, Anna. I think it's a very good question. I'll take it from my example, why I felt it was the right time for me to do my own startup, for talent consulting. In today's world, senior leaders have always, not been given training often, because they've been so busy in the day-to-day, as my colleague said, KPIs driven. They've never had the chance to reflect on themselves. So how does that come into play? I know a lot of us have done NLP, we've done neurolinguistic programming. They have been programmed in a certain way. But the good thing is you can change it. How do you change it? There is a new market evolving right now. How many of you know coaching? You can raise your hands. Executive coaching? Yes. My answer to you is executive coaching. You need to have someone on a one-to-one to walk the thinking process with them. And that is how I add value, because I'm a coach as well. And you've got a lot of coaches in different areas. You've got life coaching, it can be a life goal. For you, it's an organizational coaching. And the third one is executive coaching, for top management. How do you get them motivated? I think you need to make them reflect, because they don't have the time to reflect. And the best thing about, I think, hand-holding, you can make it sound wrong, but hand-holding applies to anybody. Even the law applies to everyone, but the adaptation involves everyone. Even now, your top CEOs can't manage his own kid, right? And it's reflecting on the workforce, because he can't manage the young workforce. So how he does that is having that reflection. And that is how executive coaching comes into play. And I think almost 60% of the blue chip companies in Mauritius, they all have their senior leadership working with coaches. It's one-to-one. And I don't know if you all agree with me, but that is the future of work. And I think you have to tap into that.
What you say is music to the ears of the many executive coaches I think today. Jenny's laughing, we know why. Yeah, Marie, you wanted to bounce back on this.
Yeah. Something that is quite successful is reverse mentorship, where you get a young person to mentor you. Yeah. And actually that works really well, because as we mentor colleagues, they can mentor us as well. So find a reverse mentorship relationship where you have a session and a scheduled session with a young person, where you can ask the questions, where you can seek advice, where you can test ideas. And actually that's, for them, it's a privilege. It's something that they want to see on their CV. But for us, it's also a privilege, because we get to hear from them firsthand. So that's maybe something that you want to consider. It works really well.
You can hire me.
If I can just really quickly add one thing about this generation issue. I don't really like personalities categorization about age, even though we do have some, it brings some interesting insight. But there are a lot of criteria which are really interesting. One what I like, one that is really useful is the sociological criteria. And if I can talk just 1 minute about the Mauritian context. In a lot of companies, and we all know that, of course, there is a very strong sociological determinism in Mauritius. And I mean, in a lot of companies, it means that you are born in this family and you know already what the path is going to be. whether it's good or not good. And I've been working with so many groups where the people, the head is 30 years old or 50 years old, they are exactly the same, because usually they are father and son, so, or very related, and same background, same sociological path. And for me, the sociological criteria is really interesting, because actually it brings people from different ages in the same mindset, same vision, same way of management. And also this sociological humanism, it makes meritocracy almost impossible, and that creates a lot of frustration.
I see a lot of heads nodding. It's important to have these honest and upfront discussions. So thank you for panel members for being sort of really franc-parler today. I think we need that if we really want to get to the root of things and make the world a better place, the workplace a better place. Yeah, I see. Sandesh Oshyama, who is most eager?
Let there not be any sexism and exclusion.
Who's also a question?
I have two questions, but I cannot also reply them together. So I take Taruni's first. Who is Taruni? Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Taruni. I'm an image consultant, but I've been a former financial services professional. So today my question is, I recently got a case where a client told me that they are working on a DEI project, and at the same time the person asked me coaching for someone who maybe the management is not happy with the sexual orientation of one of their staff. I just wanted to know your views.
Thank you for this question. This question could have been sexual orientation, gender, it could have, yes, religion, employee with disability. First thing, if you go and meet our dear friend Mr. Karen Ben from the Labour Office, he will be so the law today is clear about it, discrimination. Now when we come to values and what we are putting on the wall and what we are doing, we have a perfect example. We won't mention the company, of course. We have a perfect example of things that are. And with regards to CI Textile, let me share with you a couple of things with regards to DEI. So right now, we started like management level, empowering women to fit in management positions. So we had targets. We were at 5% in 2020. So today we are at 15% women in management level. You know, in textile it's quite complicated, but we've got, we want to be 35% by 2030. So we are putting all the efforts from training, accompanying, coaching, recruitment, so that we create, in fact, we don't need to fix the woman, it's what we need to fix the environment so that it's conducive for the women to
Can you say that next year?
How about youngsters?
So then for people with disability, we have one factory in India where they are at 5%, because throughout the ladder, everyone is pushing in this direction, and today we have said if Aquarel or CC in Bangalore can do it, why not other companies? So this is the advantage when we are in a big group, we can have good examples to follow. And just to come back on the sexual orientation, with regards to our HRIS system, when it was configured, it was male-female. So today we are adding another category. For us, we want to promote diversity, and we have in the training, we have a single sentence. When we ask our people, I can be myself here. It's as easy as this, and our leaders are followed with regards to this. I can be myself here. In fact, this explains everything with regards to orientation, how the person is. Normally, someone like me, in some companies, maybe I could put down not being too much welcome, but I can be myself. Yeah.
And if I may add, maybe the wrong person is getting coaching here. It's not the employee.
Fix the environment.
I think beyond coaching, it has to be properly educated first, then coached. Yeah? Because in this day and age, diversity, inclusion, I think it's a non-brainer. We really have to embrace it if we want success. So you might as well reach out to the boss. Tammany, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so Sandesh, do you want to take your second question? We have 5 to 10 minutes left, so let's just try to be short and sweet.
It's an important and difficult question. So, Mansich?
Good morning, everyone. Mansich Wang. I'm actually Senior Medical Officer at a private clinic in the ICU. So, my question, in the past 2 years, 4 years, we lost a lot of doctors in our country. And if you see, we are facing one of the highest rate of inflation in the world. You go to a bank, you see 4 counters, you see 2 employees. You go to any hospital, you go to a clinic, you are always short of staffs. Our parents used to work 30 years in a company. Well, I don't know whether they were shutting their mouth or we didn't have the rights to talk at that time. Now we are more free. I don't know whether KPI or values that are inculcated is making employee leave, or why is it that an employee cannot work for 30 years in a company? I'm sure each and every one of us wants to become a BA, Master's, PhD. But why is it cannot work for 30 years?
I will just reply you in terms of figures with what we have. Today we have 22,000 people working for CL Textile, and in Mauritius we have only 2,650. It's only 12% of CL Textile which sits in Mauritius. And what has happened is that today the world is smaller and the opportunities are abundant, and people today are not afraid to leave a job to try something else. And there has been another thing in the law. Today the PRGF makes your pension portable. So in the past people were losing their temps service, but today it's you can move out. So this is another thing. Abundance of opportunities, and people are not afraid to here we have many examples, people leaving good jobs, good companies to try new ventures. And another thing that we do as companies is we try to create the opportunities. We have the chance because we are a big company, and we create opportunities for everyone to try to stay in the company. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal, it can be moving from one cluster to another. We have for example, people moving from textile to healthcare. We try to mitigate it. But to reply to your question, people staying for like our parents, we need to. I don't think it will be possible. It's too complex and volatile today. But what we can do on the other part is, as employers, we need to adapt ourselves so that we are able to mitigate it and adapt the work so that if I lose someone, what do I do? So there are some succession planning which can be done. There are other things which can be done. It's just about mitigating and trying to retain maximum, like we said. But it's something all companies is facing, and I think it's something that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you. After all, a retention strategy costs much less than recruitment, isn't it? Okay, so Shyama, over to you. You've been sort of procrastinating and waiting. Now at your time.
You still want to hear the questions, or you want to know
who's the one who asked the question? Yes.
Okay. So my good friend Rina here. Sure. Yeah, Rina.
Which Rina?
Yes, c'est pas.
Donc, je suis directrice de iGuide Consulting. Je suis consultante freelance et j'accompagne des PME, donc les SMEs à risque, dans tout ce qui est marketing, communication, etc. On parle donc, en tout cas, merci Adila et merci pour le forum et tous les insights, c'est vraiment intéressant. On apprend beaucoup de choses. Et on a parlé de foi, de faith, on a parlé de values, on a parlé de genre, on a parlé de religion, etc. Donc ça donne un regard, donc on va dire général. On parle aujourd'hui de leaders plus que managers, on parle de cohésion d'équipe, de team spirit, des initiatives qui sont faites en entreprise pour justement regrouper les gens, communiquer, interagir, etc. Moi, je suis curieuse de savoir aujourd'hui dans les grands groupes comme dans les entreprises, qu'est-ce qui se fait au niveau du top management. Donc, par rapport à ma question, donc, how do we integrate donc, tout ce qui est culture, challenge, innovation mindset et tout ce qui est organization culture, mais au niveau du top management.
Donc, si j'entends bien, are they exempt from all of this?
Entre les lignes. Voilà.
Absolutely not. I think that I'm not. Je vous apprends rien. I'm not saying anything new here when I say that it starts with leadership. Establishing embedding culture is first and foremost the job of the leadership, right? So no, they are not exempt. On the contrary, they have much more, the burden is much more on them. What do companies do to enable leaders to work their job? Lots of training, and then you need a structured program, and that is, for example, in my group, the creation of my job, because this didn't exist until last month, right? This job. It was part of people management, it was part of HR. So why has the company made it a standalone job? It's because it thinks that it's important, and that it's important that there is at least one person who makes it her job every single day to think about how this agenda is going to be pushed forward. That's my job. So what we are doing is, part of my job will be to put a structure in place so that this happens not by chance, not because one day you wake up in the morning and the sky is blue and you feel good, so you say, let me be a good leader today. That's not how it happens. It happens because you're systematic about it, you're at the rendezvous every single day, and in a very coherent way. Right? And that comes with training. That comes first and foremost by knowing what is the journey, where you want to go, and then taking the steps systematically every single day. What does it mean? How we have gone about it in ENL, Rogers, let's say. So we have a culture roadmap that we are, because we are bringing together two historically strong brands together, this can't be left to chance. I mean, even if these were not two historically strong brands, any merger or any fusion or anything, culture can't be left to chance. So we are going about it by design, intentionally, and we have designed a roadmap which starts with your why. What is it that you want to be? Okay, we were something independently, but now that we have come together, what is it that you want to be? And once you're clear about that, so how do you make it visible and accessible to every single person? And we are going about training not only the leadership, but every person in the company. And then, once that is done, we are coming with a specific program for the leadership. Again, training, lots of training. And it's the carrot and the stick. Okay, so you put the training there, you enable, you empower, but if you are not accountable, nothing happens, right? So then, how do you bring the accountability? It's by putting it into KPIs, personal KPIs, right? So at the end of the day, when you are being judged for your, assessed for your performance, and your bonus is going to depend on it, now you know, now you are focused. So now you know what's in it for you. You walk your talk. That is to say, this is just, it just closes the loop, but that's, you don't want your leaders just to be motivated by your material gains. You want your leaders to be there because they understand the why, they are walking the talk because this is how it should be. But we just put this extra to make sure that everybody is clear on where we want to go.
Thank you.
Training and also the accountability.
You've convinced us leaders are not exempt. They actually are the most important part of
the onus is more on them actually.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You've got a last question, but you will have to
which
be
is
a little bit fast on that one.
And this one is from Jenny.
Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so I'm Julie Corton, I'm a perception shifting specialist. Okay, so it's very interesting for me to understand the cultures part of it, and the question is predominantly for ENL and Rogers because it's really two different cultures coming together, right? So there is always a sense of adaptability attached to it. So for me, adaptability obviously of someone within a company is always based on what their values are, right? But where do they get their values from? It's obviously inherited from their past, parents, environment, and all of that, right? So which means that everybody that comes into the company has got a sense of individuality. So now it's a big challenge when you have got an ENL and a Rogers together. So my question is very simply, because I mean, whether there's a change, there's a sense of change, it is equal to adaptability. Adaptability is how am I going to adapt based on my perception, right? So my question to you is, is there any KPIs in place to be able to measure that perception of change from the two cultures coming into with Rogers and ENL? And if there is, how are you going to go about doing that in terms of your KPIs, in terms of perception?
Okay,
Measurement.
very specific.
Yeah, very specific.
Let me delimit the perimeter of the question first. First of all, it's not two groups merging for the moment, it's two head offices. Okay. So what we're talking about? 120 people. 60, 70 there, 60, 70 here. Yeah. So we're bringing them together. What we have discovered, quite intuitively in a way, it's you have to hold the space for people to digest the change that's happening. So you have to hold the space. Just let them express themselves. Right? When that happens, some people will automatically find that, okay, I don't belong here. This new thing outfit is not for me. So provide an option for them. That is second. Because it's natural. It's not the train smash if some people want to hop off the train. That's fine. But it's better that they are responsible towards themselves and they know what's happening and they jump off, rather than stay and become negative and toxic. If you see what I mean. So allow that to happen. So when that process is over, and then also talk to those who stay about what's happening. Give them a sense of perspective. Don't let them just guess stuff, because that's when people start asking themselves questions which are weird, which makes them take decisions that are maybe irrational. So just all the way talk to them. When you don't know, when you're not sure, when the future is not very clear, it's okay. You are human too. So tell them that it's not very clear for the moment, but we're working on it. So we have been having this type of approach, a very authentic and honest approach all along. Okay? That's one. And second now is creating this job, for example, this post. It's about now that the coming together has happened, how do we make it stick and last? So that's when the culture roadmap comes. It's about, we have worked with a consultant, an American one, it's called Cicero, I don't know if that rings a bell. Yeah. So with them, we just, the leadership team, we talked about what is it that we want to be known for going forward as a merged entity. And we came up with capabilities. You can call them values if you want. That going forward you want to be known for. And now we have to make those values, those capabilities, concrete and accessible to everybody. So we have to translate them into behaviors, and then we have to train everybody about what behaviors those are, etc., etc. But the whole process of culture embedding is taking place now as we speak. And yeah, it's a whole roadmap actually. I'm not going to
maybe you can expand on that joint networking.
So just to tell you that yes, there is a whole process that has been triggered. There's a whole structure that has been put in place to make sure that people have the right perception. But also, we are realistic. We know that people are uncomfortable with change. We know that nobody will ever be, okay, phew, I'm so happy that these things are changing and my life is
again.
Yeah, my life is getting disrupted. It won't happen. So if people are not totally comfortable for the moment, to be okay with it. But of course, not to be okay with it and go on holiday. No.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay
Shama.
with it and work on it.
Yeah, just to ask, out of curiosity, how long ago did this process start?
January.
January, 6 months. Right, thank you. Okay, so a very last question that I'll just put to anyone who wants to answer, and then conscious of time, unfortunately, we'll have to call it a day. I think it's Corinne Robert who asked that question. Would you mind, Corinne?
Hello everyone. I asked 2 questions, so which one is it?
There's one about family business that I have here.
Yes. So I'm a PR consultant, and I would like to ask a question to Shama and Anushka specifically. We do have in Mauritius a lot of family business. So how does the concept of culture can have an impact in this kind of situation and company model? Because most of the time, on the top management, it's the cousin, the son who is succeeding to the father, or the father becomes the chairman. So you were talking about innovation. How can you see a culture, a sane, culture sane in this kind of environment? Shoot.
Well, I think you're really interesting because I have an external point of view and you're inside. So.
Merci, Maureen.
Well, what I have seen is that these managers from this family business you are talking about, they are, I'm not sure what's the exact translation in English, in a kind of conflit de loyauté. I don't have a calculation.
Loyalty.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. Okay. So just to explain a little bit, that they have all this historical path from their family, and which is very close related to the history of Mauritius, of course. And they have to be loyal to this history, and of course there is a lot of expectations from the close relationships. Either it's a son or a cousin, as you said, and we are really aware of that, and it's part of who they are, of course. But then, I think from I would say the youngest generation, those who are 45 and younger, I think, maybe I'm naive here, I think they sincerely want some change. And the blackout means something now. And most of them, who I had a chance to discuss with them, they are really embracing all this idea of inclusion, diversity, change, and everything. But then they are in this very delicate place where they must not betray the people they are very close to from a historical point of view, but then they want to be open and to bring some change. So they are in this in-between place. So that's so I don't have any solution, but that's the observation I made, which is really interesting.
Thank you. Shama, do you want to add anything? No pressure, up to you.
I totally agree with Anushka here. In my company, the next generation is getting ready to get in the company, and I have witnessed their point of views, their positioning on many issues. Change is going to come through them, and it's good that happens. One. Second is, I'm maybe answering an underlying assumption to your question is, does a family business mean that it is being run by people who are incompetent? It's not because it's a family business that the owner or the CEO or the manager is not good. Right? So we must be careful about these things. And if it is your company that you have created with your vision, naturally your leadership style will influence the culture, right? But normally, I'm sure there are entrepreneurs over here, you know yourself. If your company, you have set up the company, it's your baby, you will want it to last, right? And if you want it to last, you will probably do all that it takes, okay, for it to last. And that includes opening up to diversity, opening up to lots of things, right? But does it mean that in the name of diversity, you are going to very wholeheartedly give your company away? No, maybe not. You will not be that generous, will you? And if you are, then maybe it's a new era that's starting that I'm not aware of. Thank you so much.
Just one thing on this, because we have just our leadership has just changed hands.
Sure.
And just to share with you, there has been a rigorous preparation for the new chief executive. You won't imagine the number of training, preparation, things that have been done. It's not just because he's Guillaume Danet, he's taking the responsibility. There have been things that has been done. This just
totally 100%. So what I hear from both of you is that training and also giving space to these people is what happens.
We must have heads.
I can add to that. You know, I mean, I've been approached by 2 clients already, and they want this. As Sandeep said, you know, succession planning is key, and we're talking about 5 to 6 years ahead, and they're already thinking about a talent management consultant to handhold the person. I know that word maybe resonates to us, but I'm currently working with 2 of them, and I can tell you it's not rocket science. But the beauty behind it is that leaders, it's a trivial question, like Anushka left us on a trivial one, it's either leaders are born or they're made. And then you have to find the chemistry, because these 2 dimensions will always exist, about being born a leader or being raised as a leader or being made a leader. So there are 3 elements to it, and you have to assess each category, and then you go deeply into it, and that's how coaching helps, by holding the space for reflection. And I think Sandesh said it rightly, it takes years, and even that, when the person gets the post, it's a leader in the making, in the new era. It doesn't just stop there when he gets the seat, it's the leader in the making, adapting to the era. So,
many statistics show that CEOs fail in the first 18 months.
Yes, certainly.
Okay,
insiders too, they are trained.
Yes.
I will only accept that you talk if it's just for 1 minute and the answer as well is 1 minute. Because I know some people have things to do in the afternoon, but Arvin,
I'll just add to what Shama said on this assumption. Don't assume that because it's a family member who is taking over, let's say, the management of the business, that person is incompetent. We should also bear in mind that good corporate governance requires that the board be diverse, so necessarily there would be an element of independent directors on that board. And if you're talking even more of a listed company, then you have the scrutiny of all the regulators and of your stakeholders, of your shareholders.
Thank you for that legal stand. Yes. Okay, so I think unfortunately time is not enough, but we will have to sort of come to the concluding remarks, and I'd like to invite the CEO of our group, Nadim, who happens to be talking of family business, happens to also be my spouse. Now, from history, we're on the 9th edition. He always is a little bit paradoxal and un petit peu à côté quand il parle with a different perspective.
All husbands are. You are lucky. Your wife is allowing you to speak.
You shouldn't be at home right now.
So Nadim, take your time.
You feel the pressure, Nadim?
No. Is your answer scripted?
Never. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'll be making my 30th year into the professional environment of Mauritius. So looking at you guys talking about culture, I remember my early days in 1994. Do you know what type of music was playing on those days?
Oh, the best.
I don't know. It was still disco, right? And then we changed. It was shifting to all those technology, right? So I lived all that, including the punk years, the death metal or whatever hard rock, came to electronic music, and then we came to rather mellow ace of base and kind of things. And now we are at the, how do you call that, BTS? If I had to sit and categorize my problems from those days to now, in comparison to culture, there would be no business today for me. I think humans, we are all drama kings and queens. We try to find the problem, give it a name, and then try to solve it. That's what we've done with generations. Generation X, Generation Millennials, or whatever. We've given a name to that, and now we sit and say, what do we do with that? If tomorrow I say, I've got a disease called, let's say, Buba. It's about my ankle, it's going funny. Tomorrow on social media, you'll see hundreds of people having the same issue. That's humans. What if our forefathers and grandfathers didn't use the same model? We wouldn't be here today in a very sophisticated environment. They were not afraid of technology. We are. We took AI, we invented AI, and then, wow, AI. What dangers of AI? Well, I mean, keep it simple. Whatever you said is very interesting, because 2 weeks ago I was depressed listening to politicians on the radio. I thought for 2 weeks, this country hasn't got any intelligent people. They haven't got leaders, but when I see you, I've got hope. At least you know what you're talking about. Come on. No, not you, all of you. I'll have to answer you now. So what I'm saying is that giving a problem a name has been a fashion for some years now. And then once it's got a name, now it's serious. You can have people with PhDs studying that thing, which didn't exist. Humans are still humans. We still got 2 hands, we still got 2 feet, and 1 brain. What has changed? We're talking about culture. Culture is not built. Culture is made through experiences, through beliefs, through whatever. I'm not talking about that corporate culture, which still can be engineered. I'm not saying built, engineered. But
influence.
You can frame it. You're giving names to that. You can frame it. But culture is people, is my music, is my religious belief, the way I've dressed. If I was born in Mauritius, if I was born in China, I would have dressed differently. Now giving a name to that and trying to solve the problem is the problem we have. This is what we're doing wrong at the base. I can't change that, you can't change that, that's human. But I'm just saying that, guys, don't be that serious. We haven't got that much problem. If I'm there without any PhD, without any super qualification, I've been standing there for 30 years on the same environment. What's the problem tomorrow? You're talking about succession plan in 6 years, right? Good. We need to be prudent and careful. But these guys do not know what technology will be there in 6 years. What are you planning? Just life. You're planning your life. If I die in 6 years, who comes around? But you can't plan business in 6 years. It's so dynamic. I'll end up by saying one thing. There's a Japanese samurai who I study, I read a lot. And the guy said one thing. His last battle was not with a katana, was not with a metal sword. He came in, the opponent was a very fast one, he came in with a wooden one, and with one shot he killed that guy. That's a real story. He's called Musashi Miyamoto, and Musashi tells you, learn something about your opponent, but learn the maximum on yourself. That's what we're going to do. We're talking about culture. How much have we studied ourselves? How much do we know? How far we can go? How strong we are? What we need to change inside before changing the outside. That's what we do.
Thank you so much. So I think on this note, all said, diverse opinions, that's the beauty of HR Cafe. My takeaway is something that one of the panelists said, culture cannot be left to chance. So we need to, even if it is something that we're still thinking about, I hope that this session has planted a seed somewhere for you, fellow HR Cafe followers, that you have key takeaways that you can go back to work and think about and start implementing. Of course, you know, your feedback is very important, and you will be sent evaluation questionnaires or feedback questionnaires, let's call it that way, where you can give us your opinion and your ideas on next sessions. Just for your information, let me stand up. I think it makes it a little bit sort of more engaging with you. Just for your information, that our 10th session, which is a milestone session, will be held in October. And it's been mulling in my mind, and I've discussed with some of my team members that possibly we will be having a panel of, without wanting, like you said, Anushka, to put age in a box, but have the millennials and the Gen Zs host and be the panel for our 10th edition. So if you're interested to hear from them and see them at work, please sign up for our 10th edition coming in October. That will be our last session for 2024.